Today, I'm going to explain the flat arc in just one video, so make sure to keep watching to learn more. A flat arc is a subcategory of the three-act story structure. Another subcategory of this is the positive change arc, which you can learn more about by watching this video up above. In a flat arc, the main character, or protagonist, starts out believing a truth about the world around him, and uses that truth to combat a misconception, which I call the lie. Instead of the protagonist himself changing, a flat arc story is about how the protagonist affects change in the supporting characters and the world around them. While a flat arc protagonist already holds to the main truth of the story, he will still have flaws, make mistakes, and may even have doubts about the truth. The protagonist will also have a main goal he is striving for, which is backed by the truth. Both the goal and the truth will be connected to events from the protagonist's past, which I call the backstory. The whole story can be summed up in something called the theme. It brings all of the elements together to create a tight, cohesive plot. The theme of a flat arc can vary, but several common themes are duty, heroism, loyalty, friendship, and sacrifice. The last main element in a flat arc is the antagonist. This is the villain of the story, the person or object that opposes the protagonist. The antagonist will represent the lie, which automatically puts him at odds with the truth-believing protagonist. These are the fundamental elements in a flat arc, so it's important that you understand them before we see them in action. The first main event in a flat arc is the hook. Since this happens at the very beginning of the story, you want to make sure you introduce three things: an overall question to hook your readers in, the setting in which your story takes place, and the characters that appear in the story. The most important character to introduce is the protagonist, which is why he gets a characteristic moment to set up his truth, goal, and backstory for the audience. An easy way to do this is to insert conflict into a scene, forcing the protagonist to defend his truth and showing the audience just how dedicated he is. Next, we have the inciting event, which happens around the 12% mark of the story. This serves as a call to adventure for the protagonist, challenging him to engage in the main conflict and to use his truth to conquer the lie. However, the protagonist hasn't yet seen the main conflict as his responsibility, so he will brush this challenge aside. About a fourth of the way through the story comes the first plot point, a gateway from the first act into the second act. This is where the protagonist has to leave his normal world for the adventure world of the main conflict. In this adventure world, he will be forced to confront the lie, and his belief in the truth will be tested. The first pinch point occurs around the 37% mark of the story. The pinch comes when the antagonist makes himself known to the protagonist, bringing him face to face with the main conflict. The protagonist will be reminded of the stakes, and for the first time, he will experience doubts about the truth's ability to defeat the lie. At the very middle of the story comes the midpoint or second plot point. Often known as the moment of truth, this is when the protagonist will finally go into battle mode, displaying the power of the truth to the supporting characters and the world around them. The midpoint will also reveal important information to the protagonist, and he will finally be able to stop reacting to the antagonist and start taking action against him. Around the 62% mark is the second pinch point. While things have been going well for the protagonist since the midpoint, the second pinch point serves as another pinch to remind him of the antagonist, the lie, and the stakes. This is where the doubts will begin to creep in again as the protagonist wonders if the truth is really powerful enough to defeat the lie. The third plot point is a gateway from the second act into the third act, and comes at the 75% mark of the story. This is where the antagonist and the lie seem to triumph over the protagonist and the truth. The protagonist will be faced with a choice. Does he continue to trust in the truth even though it seems to have failed him? He will, of course, choose the truth even though it means he might lose everything. And here, at the 88% mark, is where the climax arrives. This is where the protagonist will rise to face the lie with his truth, and the supporting characters will also be given a chance to fulfill their subplots. The climactic moment comes at the end of the climax and is the final showdown between the antagonist and the protagonist. But the question remains, is the truth powerful enough to withstand the lie? Against all odds, the protagonist will demonstrate the truth in its highest form, defeating the lie and the antagonist once and for all. At the very end of the story, around the 98% mark, comes the resolution. The last loose ends of the story will be tied off, and the truth will reign in this new normal world. With the protagonist's belief in the truth strengthened, he has changed the supporting characters and the world around them for good. And that is the flat arc summed up in one video. If you want to learn more about this arc, you can check out my blog in the description below. Hit that subscribe button to watch more videos like this, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!